When I started my high school career, I had to ask my parents an important question. What was my curfew? They told me no later than 11 on the weekends and no weeknights out. When I asked my dad why no later than 11, he said because girls who stay out later do things girls shouldn't be doing. Was my father implying I could only do naughty things starting at 11:01? Absolutely. Did I inform him I could probably find willing participants to do those things with me before 11? I did not, because I followed the rules and I behaved, and I had no intention of doing the things that those late night girls did. And to be clear, I have no moral judgment on girls who had sex in high school. My dad does, though, and that mattered to me, because disappointing him back then was just not a feeling I could tolerate well. I don't know if it was Southern culture or just society in general, but I grew up believing that guys wanted one thing and one thing only: sex. Two things: sex and to not talk about feelings. My high school early days can be defined, at least in the romantic context, of two pivotal relationships: Joey and Kurt. And I say pivotal not because of their longevity, but because I was still young and impressionable. That was back when my self-worth was still sitting firmly in the hands of whatever guy gave me some sort of attention, which was generally something between I like you and completely emotionally unavailable. Guy one, Joey. He lived in an adjacent town. One night, he walked into Golden Corral, where I worked, at the end of my shift at the Golden Corral. And I noticed. Why? Because the town I lived in was 2,500 people, so I knew every marginally attractive guy around my age. I worked with his best friend, and after he left, his friend asked for my number because Joey wanted to take me on a date. Now, this was big news, not just because I hadn't officially had a high school boyfriend, but because of what I was wearing when Joey saw me the first time. Keep in mind, end of the shift, I was filthy, but also my uniform was this shit brown wraparound apron, a white shirt, a weird button bow tie, and a scarf to keep my hair back. And if that doesn't sound ugly enough, I had to wear dark brown pantyhose and bright white nursing shoes. You would think it would be an excellent guy deterrent. If you didn't pick up on my parents being strict, here's another example. Because they didn't know Joey, I had to have my first date, which wasn't so much a date as a meet and greet, at my house. That visit started a whirlwind of shit in my life, because Joey failed to tell me he had a girlfriend. Kimberly. I grew up with Kimberly, and her best friend lived next door. I don't know if by some chance Kimberly happened to be next door when Joey arrived, or if her friend called her after she heard that distinctive loud muffler on his car. But I do know, by the time I walked him out, Kimberly was next door. Now, anybody who knows me today would say, Gloria would never go out with someone, a friend of hers boyfriend. And you're right, today Gloria wouldn't do that. Back then, Gloria absolutely did. I mean, they broke up. She wasn't stupid, you know. But while I didn't know that Joey specifically belonged to Kimberly, I did know that she dated guys that I had never met, guys she kept for extended periods of time. And I assumed any girl who kept a boyfriend that long must be doing the things that girls do after 11, which is no shade on Kimberly or any other girl who had way more fun than I did in high school, because it was just fear-based. You know, my dad being disappointed in me, couldn't tolerate it. On our first official date, one that didn't involve my parents in the next room, Joey and I drove to Raleigh to go dancing. On our way there, we took a detour down a dirt road into the woods for a pre-dance makeout session. This was a road that Joey was quite familiar with because he navigated it expertly. Did I say woods? Yes. Did I make the best decisions in my youth? Clearly not. Because even back then, as young and inexperienced as I was, I knew that if a girl said or did the wrong thing, that kind of situation could go sideways quickly. But a lot of times I subconsciously or unconsciously made that decision before I could make a better one that prioritized like my safety over, I don't know, any kind of attention. As our makeout session got steamy, before we hit the point of no return, I told Joey I wasn't ready. I couldn't have sex with him. Rather, I wouldn't. And it wasn't just because it was our first official date. It was also because I was 100% sure my father would find out somehow. He knows everything that goes on in that town, especially if it has anything to do with his kids. One time in high school, I came home and he said, somebody told me they saw you driving like a bat out of hell down Bunn Road. And I said, they're lying. And he said, I saw you. It was me. I'd like to point out, too, I think bat out of hell is a subjective term, and he just needed to calm down, but it's why I still don't lie to my father today, because he's sneaky. After I told Joey no sex for us, he rolled off me, and before his ass hit the seat, he said, this isn't going to work. He didn't even pretend to have a different reason to break up with me other than not having sex with him. I was heartbroken. This thing was so new and exciting. I was still smitten with his potential. I was in love with the idea of what we could be, what I hoped he would be. But that was the end of Joey. Guy 2, Kurt. Kurt worked with me at Golden Crow, and if anybody's keeping count, that's 2 guys who were attracted to me in that costume. He also lived in an adjacent town, but not the same one as Joey. And he was smart and funny and cute, and we made out and didn't have sex, and he didn't break up with me for it. Kind of perfect, and I know that's a low bar. One night, we stayed out a little later than we were supposed to, and it was also a school night. Yeah, that little act of rebellion cost me 6 weeks. 6 weeks of no phone, which even though it was a landline, still mattered. No going out. No seeing Kurt anywhere other than work. And he just turned in his notice, so that wasn't going to be happening much longer. The punishment did not match the crime. But like a criminal, they gave me 1 phone call that evening. I called Kurt to alert him to the fact that he wouldn't be going out with his girlfriend for a month and a half. A development neither of us were happy about. Part of my punishment was losing car privileges. So the next day, I'm walking home from school like somebody without a car does. And my friend Shane pulls over and offers me a ride. Normally, I would say no to that sort of thing because I live so close to the school. But I had barely had enough energy to go to school, let alone walk all the way home, because I was just devastated at how my parents had hijacked my social life. Shane and I are sitting in his car in my driveway, and I'm crying about how long it's going to be before I get to see my boyfriend, wondering if he's going to break up with me because of this. And guess who pulls up? Kurt had rushed to me after school before my mom got home so we could see each other and not get in trouble. I probably don't need to tell you that he assumed the worst. He thought I lied about being grounded and was cheating on him, neither of which was true. He left angry and unreachable because we didn't have cell phones back then. And I told Shane to leave because even though it wasn't his fault, it felt like it was his fault, and I didn't want to see his stupid face anymore. But it left me at my house without a car to chase my boyfriend. So I called my friend, a girl this time, and I said, Mayday, Mayday, you need to get here right away because we have to find Kurt. And she was there within 5 minutes. And he was the first place we looked, McDonald's. Kurt and I sat across from each other, him angry because he thought I lied and cheated, and I was angry too because he didn't believe me. So in the most dramatic teenage girl way possible, I slapped his class ring onto the table and said, well, then maybe we should break up. It was a move designed for him to see the mistake he had made and beg me not to dump him. He picked up his ring and left. I know, I was stunned, shocked, because even though I had appeared to have easily given up on our relationship, I wanted him to fight for us. I really had no business expecting a teenage boy to read my mind, but teenage me wasn't really good with like realistic expectations or clear communication. So that was the end of Kurt. And if you've ever wondered what it's like to live in a small town, here's a great example. Joey's ex-girlfriend, Kimberly, remember her, the one he cheated on with me? Well, she started dating Kurt right after Kurt and I broke up. Even asked me for his number, and like a dum-dum, I gave it to her. And they're married today. Yeah, right? So what did I learn from my high school mishaps? I learned that some guys do only want sex, but some are happy with a laugh and a cuddle. But pretty much most of them don't want to talk about feelings. I learned that I should mean what I say because the consequences of my words should match the circumstance. I learned that karma's real because why else would those two fuckers be married to each other? But most importantly, I learned that anything I can do after 11, I can easily and preferably do before. Thank you.